What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In this video I'm going to be going over some updates for Bitcoin, but nonetheless to go ahead and get it started here, first off on the 6-hour chart, Bitcoin as you can see is sitting right here at the top of the resistance zone. It goes all the way back approximately 8 months here when Bitcoin hit around 74,000 about mid-March of this year. And for you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 being our current time. It's the sixth time that Bitcoin has come up and it has touched this zone. You can look down here at the RSI and see that it is starting to taper off a little bit, starting to move towards the downside here. It's borderline horizontal, whereas the price you can see with each of these three peaks here is ascending, so there could be some bearish divergence shaping up. Now it's totally feasible to see Bitcoin have a healthy correction somewhere down to this range right in here. You can see this was also just in terms of this area right here important for the price, where we saw just traded sideways, went back above, came down, set a double bottom here where this intermediate peak found rejection into the second bottom of the double bottom. So far Bitcoin has moved back upwards. This is also where the 200 EMA sits right here as well, going all the way down just somewhere around approximately 63,000, give or take a couple $1,000 or so. The 800 EMA, which acted as support for the double bottom that we saw here, sits at around 60K. I did mention that if the Bitcoin does start to go below that around 63 down to the 60K region, and especially if it starts to lose that and then lose the median here somewhere just around like 57, 58K, then that's not really going to be looking too good. But for right now, there's for a pointing perhaps to a healthy correction of 63K. There's also a cluster of vector candles right here in this zone in the range of around 67 all the way down to 63K. So that could be a potential zone that Bitcoin comes into, maybe over the next roughly 10 days that are left in October, and maybe even leading into early November. Or it could also just as likely continue to break out here and move, actually finally go back above 70K, hit 70K and go back above it, because right now the current local high is sitting at 69,498, so just approximately $500 below 70,000. Once it does that, we'll actually see Bitcoin go above this resistance for the first time in this entire 8-month period, approximately 8-month period that Bitcoin's been trading sideways with a slight downwards orientation. Looking here at this daily chart, again, everything generally, just Bitcoin looks really good right now. Like I said, there could still be this room for a slight retracement. There's this vector zone here on a higher time frame, also affirming 63 to around 65,000 as well for potential retracement. That also would line up with the resistance zone, as you can see right here. I added here this black trend as a resistance. This is connecting the wicks together rather than the closing of candles for the red resistance. And we can see that Bitcoin is sitting right on top of that right now. So again, could further signify that maybe we'll see Bitcoin do something like this and come down, leading into maybe, like I said, early November, find support, move back up here, and then ultimately to start to break out for the third and final impulse of this bull market. Looking here at the RSI, this is same thing as what I went over in one of the past videos. Here you can see the 618 has held down the RSI the entire time that Bitcoin's been trading in this sideways, slight down trading range. So breaking above the 618, just as breaking above this yellow range, which is what I went over in the last video. This is going to be very important. This will further affirm that Bitcoin is going to continue to move towards the upside here. Now we totally could, like I said, I mean, if we see Bitcoin come down, we'll see the RSI likely come down again once more, but then likely come back up and finally break above this. Also, when Bitcoin starts to do this, whether or not it retraces, that's very likely going to push it up to the purple here, resistance in turquoise. So from around, basically approximately just around 70 to 72K, 73K. Bitcoin could also, come up to this range. Let's say it has one more last, tiny push here, pushes up to the prior local all-time high of around 74,000, and then comes back down and finds support somewhere around, 68K, maybe even comes down, like I said, around like 64, 63K, finds support here, and then starts to move up something along these lines. That could totally be possible as well. Over the rest of this month and over, going into November and December, and then concluding 2024. Here for this 4-day chart, everything, again, looking great. RSI, as you can see down here, is continuing to break out, continuing to move higher, similar to as it did back same time around last year, October, November. We're waiting. Really, the last thing on this chart is to see the horizontal resistance here broke. Right now, Bitcoin is just right below it. This sits at, again, approximately, it's almost right on the dot at 70,000. So again, 70,000 is very important, not only because that's literally part of the structure of the prices or the candles of the price, but also that's just a psychological value that's going to be important to get above as well. Looking here at this 4-day chart, again, all the resistances are broken, the green, pink, blue, so on and so forth. We're just waiting for the sideways, the horizontal uppermost resistance. But looking here at the RSI, you can see that it is just a tad bit peeking its head above the Bollinger Bands. Last time this happened, again, points back to October, November, just a year ago when Bitcoin saw the second impulse. But for that, going all the way back to the end of the bear market, when Bitcoin is hitting 15, 16,000, towards the end of 2022, 2023 then began. Ever since then, Bitcoin has been doing nothing but pumping, having healthy correction, sideways consolidation, and then continuing to pump. And that's happened so far on twice. We're at the end of what I believe is the second one, and we're heading into that third and final impulse. So for the last, going all the way back to the last 2 years, soon, once we have the turn of 2025, it will be 2 years that this bull market has been in progress. So there's, obviously a pretty long period of time, not majorly long, but a long period of time where we're seeing a lot of similar things happen. I mean, even if we go back to the prior, like the first portion of the phase 1 cycle 3 of the run for Bitcoin, you can see, looking here at the RSI, that in 2017 and 2017, beginning of 2018, when Bitcoin was at around 20,000 approximately, if you look here at the RSI, the bear market ensued, just RSI tanked, consolidated, basically sideways for a long period of time, never broke above the Bollinger Bands, then had a final dump end of 2018, beginning of 2019, hitting around $3,200. Ultimately, Bitcoin found support here, had a double bottom, moved up, and the RSI broke above the Bollinger Bands, and this marked the beginning, around March of 2019, the beginning of the bull market. Clearly, we had the March crash, but even you can see here something similar happened, that once you see right here, the March crash had the Bollinger Bands, the RSI going below the Bollinger Bands, seeing a bottom out, and then once we saw the RSI here go back above the Bollinger Bands, was just right before we saw this move from around 10,000 all the way up to around 64,000 in 2021. If you look here at this weekly chart, again, everything looking at the RSI, similar to what I've already been going over, continuing to move up here, move higher, breaking out. Nice to see that, actually, I'm just now noticing this, where we're seeing, you look here, the RSI moved up, and then had a local peak, moved down, basically just found support roughly to the median, and then moved up here. Very similar to what we're seeing right here, where we saw the RSI move up, come back down, found support, and is continuing higher here as well. Really, again, also just waiting for this horizontal resistance. All of the descending resistances going all the way back to when Bitcoin was at 75, 74K. All of their descending resistances have been broken, and the horizontal resistance is the only resistance left really for Bitcoin to break in order to confirm a significant and move towards the upside here. If you look here at this weekly chart, I mentioned how big this chart was in the last video a few days ago, and that if we look here, paying attention to these purple resistances, each of these, again, going back to October, November last year, Bitcoin is breaking above this, closing weekly candles, and this is what has happened with the last weekly candle here. And we can see that the current candle is red, but nonetheless, the prior weekly candle has closed above this final descending resistance, and it also closed above the this lower horizontal range or trend that I have right here, which is with respect to this local high right here. So we're seeing, again, like I mentioned in the last video, now where you saw a low, lower low, lower low, saw a high, lower high, lower high, and now we're seeing, from comparing this high to this high, we're seeing a lower high being taken out by a higher high, which is likely pointing to the fact that we are going to see Bitcoin rally quite strongly here, especially with everything considered over the next number of months leading into 2025. Here at this weekly chart, again, everything's continuing to look great. The RSI is still finding support along the 2-year support, going all the way back to the end of 2022. The RSI is getting closer and closer to breaking this resistance. This is all going to be very important. This is likely, assuming Bitcoin, obviously if Bitcoin doesn't continue to go lower than around 50K, and Bitcoin is in the earliest moments of the this final impulse of this bull market, this breaking right here of this black resistance in the RSI is likely going to find correspondence to when Bitcoin is breaking 70K, breaking this horizontal resistance, as I've been saying. If you look here at this weekly chart, this is also one of the bigger charts I'm going to be going over in this video. The first thing I want to point out here is this kind of this median resistance slash support zone that runs through the prior, really, and obviously you had the distribution phase here when Bitcoin is setting this double top here, and then they had the bear market, which is really kind of this major crash right here. You can look at this. This is this distribution. Bitcoin's already hit its highs. We have saw this double top right here, and price is beginning to taper off. It's beginning to slow down, and then we see this portion right here, which is really the major leg of the bear market, leading into what we saw here, this double bottom right here into 15-16K, and then this resistance slash support zone was finally broken for the first time. You can clearly see how important it is here, where we saw resistance. Bitcoin came back up, found support, moved to 69K, came back down, found support around 35K, moved up to 46K, ultimately came down for the core of the brunt of the bear market, as I was saying, at around 20,000, came back up and just kept finding rejection right here until it finally broke it at the beginning of 2023. And then since then, Bitcoin has been going up for around 2 years at this point. You can see this pink resistance here is the resistance, the ascending resistance 4 that has characterized this bull market so far, where we see the first impulse right here, find resistance, sideways action, double bottom, impulse right here, resistance, just sideways, slightly down side action here. Now it's breaking back above this resistance, just as it did the first time around. So again, we have this first impulse right here and second impulse right here. Now this table, these values here, corresponds to this. So we see 146%, 82%, 146% is the impulse, the percent move from the candle, the bottom of the candle that closed above this resistance here to the top. So 146%, 82 is just going to be the same thing here, leading up to 30,000 as well. We see the ratio between this is 1.782. Just funnily enough, very close to the 1.786. It's only 0.004 off, and quite interesting given the fact that a lot of times throughout the years that I've been looking at Bitcoin, when I do things similar to this and I take certain, time patterns or, percent moves and divide or multiply or do certain arithmetical things with it, a lot of the times it will give me a number that's very close or, within a approximate range, ballpark of some sort of Fibonacci level or Fibonacci value. So if we do this and we multiply this, let's say this factor here, 246% second impulse, given this was the factor between the first impulse, the second impulse, let's say something, especially if this is, which it already is in a way, looking a lot like a 5-wave impulse, like in terms of bull market, the L wave analysis, where we're going to see this first impulse, second impulse, and this third and final impulse here towards the upside. And we're clearly seeing this pattern here where it seems to be that each of these impulses within this broader bull market has some sort of relevance to Fibonacci-based ratios. And that 262% here that we get from doing this would take Bitcoin all the way up to right at 227,000, which is very interesting when you think about the fact that, as I've gone over in the past, looking here, this is the Fibonacci extension of the bear market. So from 20,000 to around 3,200 of phase 1 of cycle 3, and going all the way back to, if you look here, this portion of price is going to be phase 2 of cycle 2. You see that the bull market topped out within this orange range. Even further back, going all the way back to 2011, when Bitcoin hit around 30,000, or not 30,000, $30. This would be phase 1 right here, cycle 2. Again, topping out in this orange range. Specifically, the candles like to wick to around 2.319, and the average of all of these is going to be the 2.278. So again, that is all pointing to, this goes all the way back to 2011. It's worked every single time so far, so who's to say that it doesn't at least have the possibility to work out once more, and maybe even multiple times going further on in Bitcoin's price progression. So the 2.278, the average of all of these sits at around 210,000. And like I said, the 2.319 has also been important, going up to 227, just approximately $230,000, as I have been saying. So there's multiple things pointing to just seemingly $230,000 approximately. We do the similar thing here in terms of the time, where we see this first impulse was 13 bars, 13 weeks in duration. The second impulse here was 22 weeks or bars in duration. This gives us a factor of 1.692, which is not as close as the 1.782 to the 1.786, but the 1.692 is still quite close enough in my view to 1.618, the golden ratio. So if we do the same thing here, multiply the factor to the second, the duration of the second impulse, we get 37. So that's going to, again, we're taking this from the candle, weekly candle that closes above the resistance, takes us all the way out to the end of June of next year. So what this is all saying, for multiple different analysis, as I've shown, pointing to somewhere approximately 230,000 just before the end of the first half of next year, just within the first 6 months of next year, 2025, as high as around $230,000. Again, looking down here at the RSI, we saw this resistance broken, seeing something very similar, where we saw this bear market resistance broken, we saw this resistance broken, and we're seeing the same thing again. Once this RSI starts to go above this median here, again, we'll further line up with seeing Bitcoin continuing to move up and potentially validate this analysis here, moving up to not only just this ascending resistance trend that's characterized the impulses of the bull market so far, but along with the percentage and temporal patterns we're seeing here. Like I said here, with the historical, these approximately 13-year Fibonacci retracement that is every single time predicted a very tight range of where Bitcoin is going to be for its upcoming all-time high. If you look here at this 2-weekly chart, what we can see here is, zooming out, each of these horizontal and vertical lines are and have a direct relationship to each other. The purple horizontal lines are aligned on top of each of the all-time highs here, going all the way back to 2011, where the candles closed, so 2011, 2013, 2017, so on and so forth. And then these vertical yellow lines are lining up with when we see the first 2 weekly candles above this. So we see here January 2013, February 2017, November 2020, and February 2026. So this creates a 4-month range of November to February. This has happened going all the way back to 2013. 3 out of 4 of these instances have been January to February. Like I said, so these first, you see January, February, and this last one February. So February twice, January once, and then this third time was just a little bit early in November. But like I said, November to February, since 2013, we're seeing these 2 weekly candles close above here. We zoom in, we see this ascending, these two ascending resistance slash support zones, where it really begins going all the way back to 2013, around halfway into that bull market of the phase 1 cycle 2, where we see Bitcoin find rejection, come back down, find support, explodes back above. Bear market here ensues of phase 2, cycle 2, goes below both of these ranges, comes up, finds rejection, just trades sideways, finally comes back up some more, again finds rejection, but it continues just to constructively build up, comes back up and kind of oscillates around like a median, this lower zone. Eventually the price then was entering this period, January 2017, where it's trading upwards right in between both of these ranges, and ultimately once it finally breaks above that, it just explodes towards the upside. Bitcoin hits $20,000 end of 2017 approximately. Then this bear market ensues. Bitcoin comes down end of 2018, bottoms out around $3,500 within this upper support right here, moves up, intermediate high of phase 1 cycle 3, July 2019. This then leads into the March crash of 2020. Also finding support, as you can see here, right along the upper region. Then finds movement here towards the double top, 2021, 64 to 69K. Price comes back down. Then we see a support again on the lower portion here. Bitcoin then moved up. Saw some rejection here at around 30,000. Came down, found support along this white zone, moved back up for the second impulse, and now we enter the beginning of where Bitcoin has been recently for the last 8 months, and so far it's still right now currently above, with the prior 2 weekly candle was a green candle that closed above the prior, as you can see here, this horizontal for the prior all-time high. Now, just to be entertaining here, clearly as my sentiment should obviously appear leaning skewed towards a bullish bias. Now, as I was saying, 63, even down to 60K is kind of reaching the bottom of my healthy correction barrel here. But let's say Bitcoin comes down even lower than 49 to 50K, which, like I've been saying in past videos, definitely could happen. There's definitely still room to come down around 43,000, as I've been saying, which is actually being further affirmed by this lower trend zone here. It's been around for many, many years, as I've shown. So I just wanted to point that out again, just to entertain that, because that's definitely possible. Again, we see this 2-week RSI also breaking out here as well, looking just like the other time frames and lower time frames I was going over. Here for this 2 weekly chart here, we look here, zooming in on the RSI with the Bollinger Bands here. Again, we're further seeing it move up. It's getting closer and closer to the median of the Bollinger Bands. Once this crosses over, and you can see right now this is pink. Once it flips blue, that will again further be affirmation here and what we need to see in order to see Bitcoin continue higher here, moving to and above 70K and higher, leading into the first half of 2025. And again, just to kind of close it out here with this 6-month chart, nothing's really changed here on this chart just because it's such a long time frame, but just really to tie in everything here, like I've been saying. So far, with all that pointing to within the first half of next year, somewhere around 20, just really within a ballpark range around 200,000, give or take $30,000. Also being affirmed by the ascending resistance here going all the way back to 2017. But that was all that I wanted to go over in this video. So as always, hopefully enjoyed. None of this is meant to be financial advice, if anything meant to be educational. But all that being said and everything gone over, I hope you all have a wonderful day.